on satellite, on Freeview, on cable, on radio, on mobile, on the web and around the world. This is First at 9 on Other Derana 24/7.
Tonight, war crimes allegations. Fresh calls made by Northern Provincial Councillor Sivaji Lingam for an international probe on human rights.
These incidents clearly, once again, reiterate the need for an international judicial process.
Incorrect procedure. Bar Association of Sri Lanka claims that passing the local government amendment bill is undemocratic and plans to discuss with the President and the Prime Minister. Ministerial privileges. Former Minister Joseph Michael Pereira says Ravi Karunanayaka's privileges should be curtailed. Eyeing for a digital economy. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe highlights the necessity of transferring towards a digital economy. And in international headlines, German elections. Angela Merkel secured a fourth-term win at the general election despite a chaotic surge by the far right. Good evening to all our viewers across Sri Lanka and around the world. Welcome to First at 9. I'm Mahesh Johnny. We begin tonight with the news of President's visit to the UN. President Maithripala Sirisena is back in the island after successfully attending the 72nd session of the UN General Assembly that took place last week in New York, USA. In his speech to the Assembly, President Sirisena gave an update of the progress Sri Lanka has made since it took power back in 2015. Our airport correspondent said that the President and his delegation arrived in Bandaranaike International Airport at around 8:45 this morning. Now here's a complete look at the President's visit to the UN.
President Maithripala Sirisena left for New York to attend the 72nd UN General Assembly on the 17th of September to arrive in New York on the 18th. He addressed the UN General Assembly on the 19th. It was the third time that President Sirisena addressed the UN General Assembly. In his address, the President apprised the world leaders on policies of the country. The same day, President Sirisena participated at the sessions of the UN Economic and Social Council, which was only attended by the heads of states. During his New York visit, President Sirisena and First Lady Jaya Sirisena also attended the dinner hosted by US President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump. Meanwhile, the President also met with UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Prince Zeid Al Hussein, for discussions on government steps towards reconciliation. During discussions, President Sirisena extended an invitation to the Human Rights High Commissioner to engage in a tour to Sri Lanka in the next year. Meeting between the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres and President Maithripala Sirisena was held on the 23rd. Guterres said United Nations is ready to provide assistance to Sri Lanka in its efforts to build a prosperous nation where reconciliation is strengthened. On the same day, the President also met with the Sri Lankan community living in the USA. Meanwhile, President Maithripala Sirisena expressed his views about the just concluded session of the United Nations, addressing an event at Bombuwala in Kalutara.
I have two messages for you after participating at the 72nd session of the United Nations. The first one is we don't have any rivals in the international arena. We received some allegations from some cornered groups which were attached to the defeated LTTE organization. The fact is, most of the time, new conflicts can occur between the countries in near future. Sometimes we will have to experience war conditions too. I realized this fact during the UN sessions. We cannot see a durable peace, friendship or reconciliation within the international political arena. If we see a danger, we have to be ready to face it. What I see is, if international conflicts occur, it directly affects our cost of living. Then we must be ready to face it. A protest organized by the Sri Lanka Global Forum took place in front of the United Nations office in Geneva, Switzerland. The protesters carried placards voicing against continuous UN war crimes allegations on Sri Lankan armed forces.
Members of the Sri Lanka Global Forum, mainly Sri Lankan expats living in Switzerland, Italy, England, Kuwait and Australia, participated in this event. Rear Admiral retired Sarath Weerasekara and Dr. Nalaka Godaheva addressed the gathering.
A group of separatists operates the United Nations office. Decisions are taken as per money given to them. United Nations Human Rights Commission as well as the High Commissioner takes decisions as per instructions of that separatist group.
Just after the protest, a letter addressed to the UN Secretary General was handed over by Rear Admiral Sarath Weerasekara, Dr. Nalaka Godaheva and co-chairman of the Global Sri Lankan Forum, Vasantha Kirthiratna. The letter states that UN Human Rights High Commissioner Prince Zaid Ra'ad Al Hussein was acting beyond the scope of his mandate when dealing with human rights issues in Sri Lanka. Meanwhile, Northern Provincial Councillor M.K. Sivajalingam, making a statement at the UN Human Rights Council, said that recent statements by Minister Field Marshal Sarath Fonseca proves a war crime that took place.
The former Sri Lanka Army Commander Field Marshal Sarath Fonseca categorically claimed that he had information that the General Jagat Jayasuriya, along with the 30 others who were in charge of the surrendered Tamil people who committed war crimes.
State Minister of Defence Ruwan Wijewardena emphasises that proposed constitution will exercise devolution of power within a unitary country. He made the remark following a religious event held in Dalgoda today.
The religious event was held in Kandagoda Vivekarama Temple in Dalgoda today. Venerable Kotapitiya Rahula Anunayaka Thera expressed these views on the proposed constitution.
If those in power are bringing a new constitution, it is not just the parliamentarians who should know about any new amendments. I am requesting you to make the public aware of the new constitution and its amendments.
After the event, journalists raised questions on the proposed constitution as well as criticism levelled against Buddhist clergy.
Those who criticize the constitution says there is no place given for Buddhism and that we are trying to divide the country and so on. But we have given prominence to Buddhism while the constitution will exercise power within a unitary country. The TNA and other small parties are also in the same stance to give prominence to Buddhism. It's unfortunate given the circumstances that certain public officers criticize monks, and it is really not the government's stance. In one of our headline stories, the Bar Association of Sri Lanka expresses objection on the process of passing the local government election amendment bill in Parliament. President of Bar Association U.R. De Silva made the remark at a media briefing held in Colombo today. The Supreme Court clearly said there should be a referendum on the 20th Amendment, but the government never took any actions on it, and they suddenly stopped doing anything about it. Instead, they focused on the local government amendment bill which talked about women's representation, but they did not gazette it or include it in the agenda of the Parliament or gave any time period to consider the matter. They tabled the bill with amendments of 31 pages to be passed in a short period of time. What the Bar Association believe is that this violates the rule of law. We decided to discuss the matter with the President and the Prime Minister. As soon as he heard our decision, the Prime Minister said that he would give the opportunity to do so. We will raise our strong objection on it during those discussions.
අපගේ දැඩි විරෝධතාවය මේ ආකාරයට කටයුතු කිරීම සඳහා ඒ අනුගමනය කරන ක්‍රියාපටිපාටිය සම්බන්ධයෙන් ප්‍රකාශ කිරීමට බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා.
The Supreme Court brought the view that there should not be any postponement of elections. However, this act allows that postponement. We will be able to know what the government stance is once we have discussions with the President and the Prime Minister.
සමග සහ ජනාධිපතිතුමා සමග සාකච්ඡා කිරීමේදී අපට දැනගන්න පුළුවන් වෙයි. අප විසින් තීරණය කරනු ලැබුවේ අග්‍ර විනිශ්චයකාරතුමාට
We decided to give all information including videos to the Chief Justice. He will then give the opportunity for justices to express their views on the matter. If majority of them decide there was a contempt of court, then Deputy Minister Ranjan Ramanayake will be inquired about it. If the Deputy Minister can prove that there are corrupt officials in the legal system, then we will accept it. But if he can't prove it, then the Supreme Court will take action against him.
එහෙම නැත්නම් ඔහුට එරෙහිව කටයුතු කිරීම ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨාධිකරණයේ අභිමතයක් තිබෙනවා. ඒ අනුව කටයුතු කරන්න.
ඉවරන කොමසාරිස්වරයා මැතිවරණයෙන් නොකල්පිනා ප්‍රමාද කිරීම සම්බන්ධයෙන් ඔහුට තියෙන බලසලතා ඔහුගේ නීති ප්‍රකාරය මොනවාද?
ඔහු ස්වාධීන ආයතනයක්.
He is an independent entity, but that doesn't mean he can act on the elections if there is no environment created for it.
කොතරම් ස්වාධීන වුණත් ඒක කරන්න බෑ.
Now, speaking at a media briefing in Colombo today, leader of Pivituru Hela Urume, parliamentarian Uday Gammanpilla, said that members of the Election Commission should resign immediately.
මීට අවුරුදු 3කට කලින් අපේ රටේ හිටියා
3 years ago, we had an independent and brave elections commissioner called Mahinda Deshapriya. He said that if anyone violates election laws, that person should be shot in the head. It was Mahinda Deshapriya who was also appointed as the chairman of the Elections Commission. The election commissioner who was fearless then is not the same person who we have now. It is evident that the postponement of elections is done with the fullest support of the chairman of the Elections Commission. If the chairman of the Elections Commission still believes it is legal to postpone provincial council elections while we have a delimitation appeal committee, I would like to challenge him to a public debate with me so that voters will know what is the correct legal process. There is no point of having an elections commissioner if a country does not hold elections. Members of the Elections Commission should resign immediately, not in January 2019 as he announced. United National Party's Jaya electorate chief organiser Joseph Michael Pereira says that he will make a request to the government to remove all ministerial privileges entertained by the party's assistant leader, parliamentarian Ravi Karunanayake. And UNP's Jaya chief organiser made this remark addressing a function at Jaya this morning.
An awareness campaign for the UMP's mini-polls candidates in the Jaya area has been organised by the party, and it was presided over by Jaya chief organiser for the party, Joseph Michael Pereira.
Who is this Ravi Karunanayake? He is the one who supported fractions to expel the party leader. Ranil Wickremesinghe is a great leader. He should not continue with empty persons like Ravi. We came to elections promising to punish all thieves. Then how can we go ahead keeping those thieves among us? Ravi admitted his fault and resigned. He resigned from the ministerial post. Now he is not authorized to use the ministerial vehicles. We tell the government that all those privileges should be removed from him. I don't have any personal grudges with the parliamentarian. My issue is with the person who engaged in some faulty transactions and later said he can't remember the past incidents. And also my issue is with the UNP's assistant leader. Leader of the Janatha Vimukti Peramuna, Anurakumar Disanayake, alleges that the government is wasting public money by entering into loss-making agreements. He made this remark at a media briefing held in Colombo today. The government is spending 135 billion rupees for a 32-kilometer stretch on the Pothuhara-Galagidra Expressway. A Japanese firm, which was initially rejected in the tender for the said project, has received the tender once again. If we speak about Sri Lankan Airlines, they signed an agreement with a French company to procure 4 numbers of A350 planes. This is a very dangerous agreement. Therefore, instead of cancelling the agreement as per a decision they took earlier, they paid $108 million to the said firm. They also agreed to purchase A330 planes, and the 10-year lease payment of current planes which are already being used was further extended. Therefore, we can see that the public's money has been wasted under the leadership of the current government. Sri Lanka is one country that does not have an Audit Act. Since 1978, the Constitution has been amended for 19th occasions. However, the Audit Act has been amended 22 times because it is a group of thieves whose approval is needed to pass this act. In other local stories, Minister of Science, Technology and Research Sushil Premajayantha says that in order to bridge the gap between income and expenditure of the country, a fresh thinking needs to take place in its approach to solve the problem. These views by the minister were made when he took part in the announcement briefing of Sri Lanka's first social innovation lab. The Ministry of Science, Technology and Research, together with the United Nations Development Programme, announced the establishment of Sri Lanka's first social innovation lab at a media briefing held this evening in Colombo. The Innovation Lab is a concept to support national development priorities through prototyping of development ideas. This will be in form of an idea, a problem or a solution using foresight tools to take into account multiple alternative future scenarios to make the idea or solution future-proof. Addressing the briefing, Minister Sushil Premajayantha said that this has now become a priority for the current government.
So irrespective of parties, any government has to take up this challenge, not only in Sri Lanka but in even all over the country, all over the world. So therefore, most of the countries, especially the developed countries, if you look at those developed countries, they spend more than 3% of their GDP for research and development and innovations. Within next 3 months, we are going to start the laboratory, and then it will be beneficial to the researchers, innovators and the entrepreneurs, and ultimately to the development of the country.
The first Social Innovation Lab is one of the many very positive initiatives that will bring Sri Lanka forward in this endeavor. It's therefore also important that we are looking at the horizon. We are looking at tools and methodologies that would enable us to collectively plan better for the world that we envision for 2030.
Some tragic news to report to you tonight. Famous actor and model Dasun Nilshan committed suicide today. The actor, who featured in several TV Derana teledramas, has reportedly hung himself at a boarding house in Pannipitiya. Police say the cause is a personal one and further investigations are underway. With that, let's now take a look at some other stories making news across Sri Lanka.
The former Navy spokesman, Commodore DKP Dasanayake, who was arrested in connection with the case involving the abduction and enforced disappearance of 11 Tamil youths in 2008, has been further remanded until the 19th of October. Commodore Dasanayake was named a suspect in the investigation and arrested on the 12th of July this year by the Criminal Investigation Department. The former Senior Deputy Inspector General Jaya was arrested today by the Police Special Investigations Unit in connection to a murder investigation involving former Deputy Minister Premlal Jayasekara. Premlal Jayasekara was accused of being involved in a shooting incident in Kahavatta during the 2015 presidential election. Lalit Jayasinghe, who was produced before the Palmadula magistrate, was released on bail today. The appeal by MP Geeta Kumarasinghe on the decision of her lack of qualification to hold a ministerial position was taken into hearing at the Supreme Court today. President's counsel Romesh De Silva, who represented petitioner MP Geeta Kumarasinghe, stated that the Parliament is the only authority that can evaluate the qualifications of its members. However, further investigations on the case was postponed to the 28th of this month.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Let's move on to business news now. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe says that it's vital for Sri Lanka to transfer towards a digital economy in order to stay ahead in the world. He emphasizes that through this, the country can harness the benefits of the world, which in return can develop the economy of the island. This comments by the Premier was made when he took part in a ceremony to declare open free Wi-Fi facilities at the Golf Face Green this evening.
The ceremony marks the opening of a Wi-Fi station that would allow the public to gain access to the internet free of charge.
මම එකක් කියන්න කැමතියි. මේ ඩිජිටල් විප්ලවයට එකතු වෙන්නේ නැතුව මේ රටේ ආර්ථිකය ශක්තිමත් කරන්න බෑ.
I would like to talk about one thing. We cannot develop this country without being part of the digital revolution. If we are to strengthen our economy, then it should transfer towards a digital economy. This is happening all across the world. When we do this, Sri Lanka will not only become a hub for transportation, but for information as well. As part of this initiative, we reduce taxes. And next, we hope to increase the number of Wi-Fi stations to around 10,000. The most important thing is by next April or May, when the A-level students go back to school, we will ensure that all students receive a tab for their education. News of a price hike. LPG gas companies operating in the country announced that the price of a 12.5 kilogram domestic cylinder will be increased by 110 rupees from midnight tonight. Meanwhile, President Maithripala Sirisena has directed officials from the Ministry of Finance to impose 100% levy on imported big onions. The President has given this directive, paying attention to the problems faced by local big onion farmers when selling their crops. However, a spokesperson from the Ministry of Finance said that the decision has not yet been taken when the decision will, and as to when the decision will be implemented. In international business, the euro and the European stock slipped today after the European Union's most powerful leader, German Chancellor Angela Merkel, won a fourth term but faced a fractured parliament as support for the far-right surge. Investors were unnerved by the prospect of months of coalition talks, which could distract from negotiations on Brexit and efforts to integrate the bloc's remaining members.
The euro slid 0.3% to $1.1918 putting more distance between a 2.5-year high of $1.2092 reach on 8th of September. Eurozone stock markets were down 0.3%, although falls were more pronounced in Asia, where equity markets were hit by concerns over the economic health of the world's second biggest economy, China. MSCI's broadest index of Asia Pacific shares outside Japan was last down 0.8%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng was down 1.3% and Shanghai slipped 0.4% after a number of Chinese cities rolled out new measures to cool housing prices.
Let's take you to the stock markets here at home. At the stock market today, shares fell for a third straight session to a one-week closing low as investors sold in market heavyweights ahead of the central bank's policy rate decision. At the close in Colombo, the CSE all-share lost 0.24%. Meanwhile, losses in the information technology, chemicals and pharmaceuticals and healthcare sectors led shares lower at the close as well. A Reuters poll showed Sri Lanka's central bank is expected to keep its key interest rates steady tomorrow to support a staggering economy even as inflation accelerates amid strong credit growth. Now here's a look at your currency rates for today.
You are watching Sri Lanka's trusted news brand, Derana 24/7.
On to international news now. German Chancellor Angela Merkel secured a fourth term at the general election held yesterday amid a chaotic surge by the far right. Chancellor Merkel's alliance Christian Democratic and the Christian Social Union was able to claim only 33%, hitting a low from 41.5% gain in 2013. The Social Democratic Party secured 20.5%, while the Nationalist Party, Alternative for Germany, secured 12.6%, paving way for the formation of a new coalition.
The German elections came to a close with Chancellor Merkel securing a fourth term by claiming 33%. However, following a harsh defeat at second place, Social Democratic Party stated that it will not enter into a coalition with the government. Thereby, the Nationalist Party Alternative for Germany, which was formed only 4 years ago, will enter the parliament for the first time. The entry of the far-right anti-Muslim party was refuted by many and has sparked protests in several cities including Berlin, Frankfurt and Cologne.
The Indonesian Red Cross stated that more than 42,000 individuals were evacuated from their homes near an active volcano in Bali, following warnings of eruption issued by the authorities today. The authorities imposed a 12-kilometer exclusion zone around Mount Agung and issued highest level warning on last Friday. As per a statement released by Indonesia's National Volcanology Center yesterday, the mountain has potential to erupt due to increasing seismic energy. However, the reports from Bali assured that island's main tourist areas and flights were not affected.
You are watching Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Derana 24/7.
On to sports now. The Ministry of Sports states an investigation will be implemented in order to look into the protests which were held during the inaugural and closing ceremonies of the 43rd National Sports Festival.
As per media communique issued by the Ministry of Sports, several protests have been held during the course of the 43rd National Sports Festival. The Southern Province team refrained from participating in the inaugural ceremony of the festival, objecting the removal of former Southern Provincial Council Sports Minister Weerasumana Weerasinghe from his ministerial position. Meanwhile, provincial sports officials were also seen engaging in a protest during the closing ceremony in order to oppose the direct qualification of Rumeshika Ratnayaka for the finals of the 100-meter women's event. A third protest was also conducted by officials who refrained from attending the awards ceremony as ramification of a difference of opinion with superiors of the Department of Sports Development. The media communique today by the Minister of Sports remarked these protests as disruptive acts and stated that investigations will be carried out in order to take disciplinary actions.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel, Derana 24/7.
A very good evening and welcome to the Weather Centre. Now, temperatures may vary between 20 and 34 degrees Celsius over the course of the next 24 hours. Now, if we take a look at the map, we can expect some low pressure zone in the southwest part of the island moving towards the central region. We can expect some sunny weather in Trincomalee area. However, wet weather is forecast for Jaffna, Mannar and Puttlam. Moving downwards, we can expect some wet weather in Colombo, Galle, Matra and Kandy. It's now time to take a look at your city by city forecast.
And that is a part of your world tonight right here on Derana 24/7. I'm Mahesh Johnny and I will be back tomorrow first at 9 with the very latest. And before we wrap things up for tonight, we would like to take you to the Madunagala hot spring in Hambantota. It is believed that these natural thermal waters contain medicinal properties to cure skin and eye diseases as well as rheumatic pains. Thank you for joining us. Good night.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Derana 24/7.